My name is Ulrike Schmalz. I'm also a researcher at Bauhaus Luftfahrt as Annika, and I'm also part of the Modus consortium. And I have the pleasure now to present you the use cases that were developed within the Modus project. And before we do so, it might be important to just get a better idea of what use cases are in the Modus project and what kind of scope they're taking in. So a use case, also versus the scenarios we just heard from Nadine, reflect a particular aspect of the transport system or of the passenger door-to-door journey. So use cases are a particular example how to enable this scenario, and they also may relate to a specific process that might contain a subset of the stakeholders. They're all engaged in the door-to-door journey within the air, rail, transport system, but also could be also another mode, for example, for access and egress airports. They should help to achieve the European goals within the transport system. And in the Modus project, a use case is always passenger focused, and again, considers the entire door-to-door air travel chain, parts of it, or could be even applied pre or post-journey. So how were these use cases developed within the Modus project? We used a couple of sources to consolidate the use cases in the process. We firstly looked at various high-level agendas and documents, such as the Sustainability and Smart Mobility Strategy, the Destination 2050 document, the SRIA Akare, the ERAC Akare, or the Multimodal Action Plan by Shift to Rail, and other documents. If you're interested to get a detailed list, what kind of documents we analyzed, have a look in our deliverable 4.1. And looking at all that documents and agendas, we were able to derive the high-level political agendas, or key challenges, and translate them into 5 objectives that we want to tackle specifically with the use cases. We discussed these key challenges with the Modus consortium, because every one of us is also an expert in their own domain somehow. And we have air and rail experts in this project available. And we also made sure that in this internal iteration process, that the objectives or the key challenges are also in line with our Modus objectives, because in the end, the use cases are used and integrated for the modeling exercise to evaluate how a use case across scenarios could be enabled for reaching those goals. And we were able to identify 5 key topics representing challenges we want to tackle with the use cases. And this is everything around improving ticketing for the passenger. It's about fostering the interoperability and data sharing between providers. It's about increasing the connectivity in the transport system, having a framework and rules for more intermodal alignment between modes, and of course also tackling the environmental impact. And the following 4 use cases should help to tackle all these key challenges and to enable to reach some of the goals that are outlined. So the first use case is concerned with ticketing, and it should enable a more flexible, innovative, and integrated ticket system within Europe between the different modes. It shall enable the passenger to rebook in case of disruption, or basically any other personal need, a scenario which might come up for passengers that might cause a rebooking. It should enable single ticketing, so using the same ticket for the entire travel chain. And also it goes hand in hand with the idea of the transport hub perspective, which was already mentioned by Carlo this morning, having an interface of different modes, meeting at one place and providing the passenger or traveler in that sense, also the possibility to choose between the different modes and to reschedule depending on the personal lease or in case of disruptions. And for example, that could be an airport, and some airports already have quite a good connection between air and rail, but definitely not too many in Europe. In this use case, obviously, also have a lot of stakeholders being involved, because it ideally covers the whole door-to-door air travel chain using this single ticketing idea. The second use case is concerned with providing a more personalized travel, personalized journey for passengers. And this use case provides more opportunities for interoperability and data sharing between providers. And you all know that personal services are based on data and individual data with real-time updates. And this is heavily based or depends heavily on intermodal data sharing and cooperation. These individual services can be provided by digital travel assistants. It could be an app, it could be also a website, it could be on any device probably coming up in the future. And there are already some concepts, for example, explored in the DORA project or tested in the PassMe application at Schiphol Airport. So theoretically, there are already some layouts available. And again, this high personality is heavily depending on cooperation between stakeholders and a high degree of data sharing, basically, between them. And it actually helps us to fulfill travelers' needs in a much better way, for example, assisting elderly travelers along the travel chain, or supporting families traveling with children or traveling with a lot of luggage. And it should also include a payment system for ticketing, for adding any other upgrades or booking another luggage or whatsoever. So becoming really a one-stop shop. However, again, this is heavily depending on cooperation and the data sharing between providers. The third use case should enable a more connected and seamless travel among Europe. And the seamless journey should not just be created in terms of saving travel time, but also connecting more rural areas among Europe towards the transport system. And in the Modus context, as you know, we have the focus on air rail specifically. That also means to foster this air high-speed rail connections, be it in this intermodal transport hub, and offering also a choice for passengers. Do I take the plane? Do I take the train? So this choice is sometimes even not available to passengers for specific routes. And this should be fostered in this use case even stronger. And it also means to increase the connectivity, prioritizing passengers in case of disruptions, and having a kind of adaptive system to make sure that everyone reaches their goal in a seamless and connective manner. The last use case is concerned with changing the short-haul travel. And we all know that reducing the environmental footprint is the main priority and a challenge for the entire transport system, for all stakeholders within it. And we all also know that next to the technical solutions which are discussed, operational changes can at least bring some relief. And they're also part of many climate scenarios which are already out there, for example, in the Destination 2050 document. And one possibility is to shift short-haul flights, if feasible, to rail connections and having just a changed short-haul travel within Europe. And in this use case, this is heavily driven by policymakers setting the incentive to foster this shift. For example, by banning all short-haul flights altogether if there's a feasible alternative available. Another way could be to offer passengers, oh, sorry, somebody unmuted themselves and I hear myself in an echo. Okay, gone, thank you. Another way, alternative way could be to offer the travelers, when booking a journey, the most environmental friendly journey possibility, or provide the carbon footprint behind the flight, behind the railway, to make sure that they make an informed decision when they're traveling, and that they can also choose from their booking perspective and make a change, at least in the short-haul travel here.